Good afternoon to all the big bosses. I'm Don, and I will be kicking off my team's pitch on why we have the best classification model. To begin, the most prevalent scam is impersonation. It covers for more than half of the total cases reported in 2021, which includes other scams like investment, job, love, and commerce. Hence, the typical profile of an impersonation victim are: number one, the victim is young and is below 35 years old. This is calculated from the average age of the total amount of impersonation victims that have came forward to make the police report. 2, the victim stays in small-size HDB flats with 3 or less family members. This profile was observed when exploring the dataset through the victim's personal information such as housing type and the number of people in the household. 3, victims do not gamble. This is an interesting profile that was detected from the survey information that have majority of the impersonation victims which have stated that they do not gamble, nor do they have any gambling habits. Finally, the victim is tech-savvy and active on mobile media. This was derived from the many online impersonation cases that were reported, with cases being 4 times more than offline impersonation cases. And among these cases, many will scam off their money through online transfer. Above are the characteristics that my team have established and will be using when working on the classification model. More will be elaborated by my groupmate later on. For now, I'll pass on my time to Xin Yi to talk about the possible demographics that we may have underrepresented.
Thank you, Don. Firstly, the group of well-off individuals may not be as well represented, as it might be because that they feel that their losses as a result of the fraud is not a significant concern to them since they are readily able to finance it. Next, the shame associated with being taken advantage of at an advanced age may also contribute to the underrepresentation of older people, especially the elderly. This may be inferred from the statistics in the preceding section, where it was said that most of the casualties were young persons from under the age of 40, as elders choose to suffer in silence after being deceived instead of reporting it to save themselves from embarrassment. It will subsequently affect the accuracy of our classification model. Similar to the elderly, teens may not be as adequately reflected in the data, as the youngest age reported was 17. They are less likely to report to the police about being conned, as they are afraid of being punished by their parents. Lastly, there is an underrepresentation of foreigners in this data set. This could be attributed to their lack of knowledge on where to report fraud incidents, unfamiliarity with police systems in a foreign state, and concerns that the local authorities will not be able to recover their money, and therefore this affects the reliability of our classification model, as the data set is not extensive and comprehensive due to the number of unreported scams.
And now, most importantly, onto the classification model. So who fall for these traps? So from our dataset, we have located 3 factors that could fall into the categories: high risk, medium risk, and low risk. First, we have age. In the literature, reports claim that young people are not as immune to online scams actually, despite being tech savvy. But instead, they are the population that is more targeted towards as compared to the elderly. But how do we classify youth in Singapore? Easily, we have plucked out the definition of youth from National Youth Council, which is 15 to 35 years old. Likewise, for elderly, we have referred to the age where you would be considered as a senior citizen as early as 55. Therefore, those 36 to 54 shall fall into the adults age group. Looking at our dataset, our notion is also supported, as youth consists of 62.1% of the cases and elderly at the other spectrum of 9.2%. Therefore, this will cause youth to fall into high risk, adults at medium risk, and elderly at low risk. Secondly, we chose gambling behavior because we thought that gamblers were better able to adapt to financial risks than non-gamblers, making them less vulnerable to frauds. We first look at our dataset to support our hypothesis, where those who never gambled make up 55.9% of scam victims in comparison to those who have gambled at least once a day at 6.8%. Literature mentions that gamblers may have a loss aversion perspective on situations, which encourages them to thoroughly consider their options before taking any risks and may help them recognize the possibility that they are a victim of a scam. Additionally, when we consider risk aversion for non-gamblers, they may be more inclined to fall for impersonation cases due to the inclusion of authoritative state agencies such as MOH and SPF. Hence, trust could be established right off the bat for such institutions that are deemed legitimate immediately by the public, and also to prevent the further risk of getting into trouble, especially in cases like Singapore Police Force. Therefore, as such, those who have never gambled before will be classified as high risk, those gambled once a week or month, medium risk, those who gamble daily, low risk. Thirdly, another factor would be the absence of social support, measured through the number of people in their household. The National Crime Prevention Council in Singapore quotes strong social support as one of the contributing factors in potentially evading a scam. Additionally, it was also recommended by Straits Times to talk to others to allow for more information gathering before proceeding with an action. So our data set actually shows that majority of incidents involve victims from houses with 1 or 2 people at 52.5%, while those who live with more than 5 people in the household were at 9.2%. So this demonstrates the idea that victims face reduced risk of scam as a result of the expansion of the help available to them to the people closest to them, which is their family. Therefore, it makes sense to argue that having more household companions would lessen the likelihood of someone falling for a scam. Therefore, those at high risk will be 1 to 2 family members, medium risk 3 to 4 family members, and high risk at more than 5 members in the household. Now I'll pass my time to Jaslynn.
Okay, so after our thorough explanations of our models and considerations, you might have noticed certain limitations and shortfalls in our solution. However, I'm still confident that it is the best imperfect solution at identifying individuals potentially at risk. Let me elaborate. So our model's conditions are not biased towards any group, but we have made some presumptions and preconceptions in the process of forming the model. The algorithm was created using a subjective method without consideration of contextual and environmental factors. For example, we believe that scams were less likely to occur in individuals of middle or low income households as they had lesser disposable income, but it was revealed to be false on further analysis of our data, which indicated that the bulk of reported victims were in fact low to middle income households living in 2 to 3 room flats. Another example is education, which we did not consider in our final model to prevent any personal stereotypes embedded within it and to make our algorithm more fair. Initially, we believed that education was an affecting factor for scam vulnerability and that IT and diploma graduates were more vulnerable than those with higher education. However, the data set showed that this is highly debatable as scam rates were high and amongst bachelors as well. This issue could have been improved by taking a more objective stance towards the dataset from the very beginning. But our model is still effective. To explain this, our initial prediction for each conditions were that older people were at higher risk of scams. However, the dataset revealed that more younger people were at high risk of scams. Nonetheless, our initial presumptions need not be refuted immediately, as the dataset has some limitations, such as limited data, meaning that it is not representative of the entire population. The dataset may be skewed towards certain groups of people due to personal reasons and beliefs, so they opt not to report their scams, and also some groups are actually overlooked. For example, the foreigners who are underrepresented due to their unfamiliarity and trust in foreign authority systems. Hence, we determine our conditions using the data available to us whilst considering its limitations, and our model is still effective for the general public. Thank you.